Oh, Joe.
Yes, Robert.
Um, Hi.
Hi.
It's been a long time since I've spoken with you.
It's
Like
been
literally less than 24
it's been
hours.
less than 24 hours. You have to remind me, why are we doing this?
Well, okay, so here's the deal. In this particular episode that you're about to listen to, this is a message to the audience, not you, because you don't
Oh,
listen to
good.
the show. You don't
Thank you for
actually listen to the show.
clarifying.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a lot about the OpenAI drama and about Sam Altman and what's going on. And as we recorded that, he had been kicked out of OpenAI and was being courted or hired by Microsoft. And as it turns out, literally less than 24 hours later, he is now back with OpenAI as the CEO. And so a lot of what you're going to hear in this episode is sort of out of date already. So we just wanted to make a quick little disclaimer up front that we know, that we're aware, and that you should listen. A lot of the stuff we talk about is basically still valid, but there will be a lot of context missing, obviously, with the news.
So yeah, I think it's important that because the actual title for this episode that I put together was The End of OpenAI.
Yeah.
Well, that's not right, because
true.
I guess it might be true. Well, that's why I think that when everyone listens to our commentary, I think everything we talked about is still in play for the most part. I think Microsoft still has a much bigger role in this whole thing.
Sure.
Who knows what has? So basically, correct me if I'm wrong from what I know, but I think 10 o'clock at night on Tuesday, because we recorded this in the afternoon on Tuesday. So 10
That's
o'clock
right.
then, and we're recording this right now on Wednesday. They said, okay, Sam, you're back in. They had major changes to the board. They brought 3 new people into the board. And from what I can tell, that board's job, the smaller board, is supposed to get a larger, more permanent board ready to go in the future. We don't know when that's going to happen, but that's sort of their role. Sam is CEO. Everyone was brought back that left. And here we are. Sam probably stronger than he's ever been.
Oh, sure.
Because have you ever, I guess here's this a side question. Have you ever seen a employee base so loyal to a CEO as to basically everyone was ready to walk out?
I would guess that the answer to that is probably yes, but none that were tested in such a way, right? I mean, because this was, look, 2 things that are clear here. One, the side story that got little coverage was that the employees were actually due for a disbursement of shares of ownership in the company, and that was put, on the back burner while all of this drama unfolded, and was probably going to be dead on arrival, and now is almost certainly back on the table. If not bigger than ever. And so I think, yes, there was probably some level of loyalty there, but there was also like, hey, by the way, I was going to get some, I was going to get ownership in this thing, and now I'm not. So I think there was some of that as well.
So here's my question. So everyone is up to date, we think. Do you think that we're going to have to now get together again on Thanksgiving and actually record a preview to the preview to the real episode? So anyways,
well, I think I will say this, though. I don't think we're going to have to get together tomorrow. At least I hope not. But there are a lot of pundits out there saying, sort of, this is the candle on the cake, the slamming of the door, the end of the story, tied up in a neat bow for this big dramatic thing that happens. And I don't think it is at all. I think we're just, you actually say this in the show. Where you said, we're going to find out something. And I think that's probably more true than ever. I think this is the middle of the story, not the end of the story.
Yeah, it's interesting. I read the New York Times article that talked about the board could never come back and say exactly the discretions that Sam Altman committed. So what? So there's something. And of course, you and I talked quite a bit of the episode about what does this mean? Government coming in, is that going to be more of a play? And of course, what's Microsoft's role? And I mean, of course, I'm Mr. Doomsday. I think there's something really big and nasty behind this that we're not privy to at this point. But but there's always Black Friday and Saturday
and the weekend,
Sunday, and we'll do this thing. I think I have a feeling that next episode will be another mini OpenAI discussion.
Probably so.
We'll see. So that's it. Anything else we should add before we go on to the regular programming?
No. Go Cowboys. Go Browns. Have a great show. Listen to everybody. Hope it's wonderful for you.
Rock and roll.
And now for your listening pleasure, here's Polizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This Old Marketing. Take it away, boys.
Well, hello, my friends. This and welcome to This Old Marketing. It's proudly brought to you by the Hubspot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. I am Robert Rose, and welcome to episode number 403 for Friday, November 24th, 2023. And with me, as always, as he always is, my colleague, my friend, my best pal, and a guy who's definitely not joining Snoop Dogg in his weed quitting. That's Mr. Joe Polizzi.
I'm
It's
sorry,
a holiday week.
It's been what, 8 weeks or not even of us being on the HubSpot Podcast Network, and it's tough after 396 episodes to change your spiel. That's the whole beginning. If people don't realize, you used to say, "Welcome to This Old Marketing." And then now you're saying, what I used to say is, this is Robert Rose, and welcome to This Old Marketing, proudly brought to you by that's right.
blah, blah, blah. But now I've got this, the proudly brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network. And I'm if people haven't noticed, I'm totally doing the WNBC.
You should just, you know what? You just need to go all in with that. Just do it.
Oh no, it's going to progressively get. It's going to progressively get more and more meme worthy. I think. I would at some point, let's say 10 or 15 episodes from now, probably in the new year sometime, somebody will do like a clips, brought to you about the HubSpot Podcast Network.
It's gonna have a. Speaking of Paul Giamatti, who did that in Private Parts, the Howard Stern movie, he did the whole Welcome to NBC. Yeah, he's got a great new movie out. I want to see called The Holdovers. It's really good. Amazing reviews.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good.
You watched it?
I did. Oh, yeah.
Wow, you're way ahead of the game. You went out of the house and went to a theater.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was.
That's big news.
Yeah. I mean,
good for you. Good for you. I mean, you leave the house for travel, for business stuff, but normally,
I did. Yeah, traveled quite a bit. Yeah,
but you're a homebody when it comes to everything else. So you actually went. Did you go to an AMC? Did you go?
I went by myself, by the way. So how about that? That's the other thing. My wife was away. We had let's call it a family issue, and she flew for that, and then I was alone, and then basically I went and saw a movie. So there you go.
So out of 10, what do you give it?
I would give it probably a 8.
Oh, that's a powerful recommendation.
Yeah, I think it's an 8. I mean, look, it's not a movie you need to see in the theater. Let's be really clear. You do not need to see this in the theater.
It's not Oppenheimer. There's no.
I saw it because it was at a convenient time, to be quite honest with you. So,
11 in the morning.
It's
probably.
Yeah, it's not Oppenheimer, although I really want to see that. And it's not
Barbie.
Or Barbie, right?
It's not Barbie. Not. We watched Barbie again on the DVD. We got it from the library for free, just so you know how we roll.
Okay.
And we watched that, and not as good the second time, but I caught a few things I didn't catch the first time.
Oh, well,
I enjoyed it much more.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, I laugh at that scene where they're singing all the Barbies, the Kens, are singing so good. I want to push you around I will. And they all do that. And it goes on for 3 minutes.
It's so good.
It's pretty. That's worth the movie going experience just for that scene.
Ryan Gosling's performance of that song, the look in his eyes is just,
you believe it.
It's chef's kiss, so perfect. Yeah, it's so great. And speaking of movies, by the way, the poll from last week did happen.
Yes.
About our friend
about the Adam Sandler movies. I did see correct. Some. And what did?
And thank you to Dennis Shao for tallying all the votes on Threads. So hats off to you, my friend Dennis, for doing that. Look, so it was interesting, I found, because
you have to first of all, if people didn't listen to last week. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about
I've never seen I claimed at the time to have never seen an Adam Sandler movie. And so we set up a poll to say, send in through Threads or LinkedIn or email or however to sort of send your signal in to actually recommend one. And I would watch whichever one got the most votes. And so I think it's going to be, so here's the interesting thing to me. First of all, I was reminded of several Adam Sandler movies that I have seen, but I don't think of them as Adam Sandler movies, like 50 First Dates. I've seen 50 First Dates and I've seen The Wedding Singer. So
you have
those, but those to me,
those are Adam Sandler movies.
I guess they are,
right out of the center cloth. I mean, come on.
All right. So I have seen those two. I have seen 50
But you didn't see Happy Gilmore or Waterboy or those types. What you would prefer, what would you think are sillier? I can't believe they were made Adam Sandler movies.
Correct.
Yes.
So it seems like the winner was Billy Madison, I think, or is that the name of the movie? Is that
really the one? Because I was really hoping for Waterboy, because Henry Winkler's
Waterboy didn't even really make the list.
Henry Winkler's performance in Waterboy, in my opinion, was Oscar worthy, but didn't even get nominated. But you'll know why when all that happened with that one if you watch it. But Billy Madison was the first one after SNL. That was the first big hit.
Okay.
It was Billy Madison, and Happy Gilmore was after Billy Madison.
So which one should I watch? Because
if Billy Madison won,
it wasn't hands down. It was not hands down. There was basically no clear winner.
I think Billy Madison, you will come out of that movie not nearly as intelligent as you are currently. So it will be worth it.
Okay.
It will be more than worth it. Yeah, there's a few really good scenes in Billy Madison.
All right,
let's do it. Can you watch it by the next show and talk about it?
I will watch it over I'm going to watch it over the Thanksgiving break. Yeah, as I promised to do, I will definitely do it, and I will be back after the Thanksgiving break with with my review of.
So the thing that I judge, I've seen them all. Obviously.
Yeah.
And the way that I judge my favorite is if it's on, like, I'm scanning through channels, which I rarely ever do, but as I used to flip through channels and I stop at it, would I actually watch the rest of it?
Right.
Billy Madison, I would not. Happy Gilmore, I've probably seen way too many times. That's the golf movie. So none of the other ones really would make it. 50 First Dates might actually with Drew Barrymore. That's a good one. But The Waterboy is the one I always stop. Because I think him and Henry Winkler make movie.
Well, maybe I should watch that one then. Maybe I should watch that one.
Do a double feature. We'll watch it. We'll do like that Netflix thing where we can watch together.
No, we shan't be doing that. Yeah, that
would be so fun. I'll make popcorn and I'll pretend to throw it at you.
No,
be great.
We're not going to do that. Yeah.
So that's good. So you have homework assignment.
I do.
But before that, do you want to comment on the amazing Martin Agency campaign of Snoop Dogg's Smokeless Smoker?
It is so perfect. It is so the tone that they struck in some of the ads that I've seen anyway is so perfect. It's him, just so everyone's clear.
Yeah. And what was interesting is I never saw this directly. I heard from we were talking about before the show. I heard from 3 or 4 people that said, "Did you hear that Snoop Dogg's quitting smoking?" It was a bit like I'm like, no, really? That's amazing. Like he must have got something from his doctor that said that he really could. Like everybody's trying to figure out what's going on with Snoop. And then, oh, by the way, this comes out, whatever it was, yesterday. And by the way, because we're going to talk about some timely things. Everyone should know that we're recording this on Tuesday, the 21st.
That's right. Just before Thanksgiving. Yeah.
But basically it came out that he was promoting a smokeless smoker, that you would sit in front of the campfire, if you will, and joined LinkedIn, and the LinkedIn stuff went viral at the same time.
It's
and
so
he's got
good.
Some great videos associated with it. And the results for and I probably should have this in front of me. What's the name of the smoker? Solo Stove. Solo Stove. That's it. And apparently they're flying out off the shelves like hotcakes right now. You can't even get one because of this whole thing. And
it's going to be the Christmas gift. It's going to be the Christmas gift of the year. I predict
it's actually
one of the. Yeah,
it looks fairly impressive. But the campaign and what I was talking to you about, Robert, was I don't know if you can learn anything from this, because how many campaigns are so perfectly fitting of a celebrity that you could do this and get away with it.
You know what it is? It's turning your main branding attribute on its head, right? So the equivalent would kind of be in your world, for example, if you came out with a press release and an announcement that said you were giving up orange, right, as a color. You were just going to stop. You were just going to completely stop.
Full stop.
It would
no more orange.
It would make waves. It would be notable, right?
People would say something. Yes, at least three.
And so it's just so well done. I mean, the one ad I saw, which was just an image of him, he's people can't see me that aren't seeing the video, but the prayer hands, and it says basically, I've decided to give up smoking weed, and please respect my privacy in this time of need, or whatever it is. And the comments underneath, half the comments the joke went right over their head. And they're all like, thoughts and prayers. I'm so glad that your help is.
Yeah, people thought it was serious stuff.
Yes, it's so. Look, this is classic War of the Worlds thing, right? Orson Welles, the Halloween, prank, idea, fake news as a marketing campaign, and it's genius. It was just really well done.
It's a tough one. It's a fine line, because it could have easily backfired. It didn't, because it's Snoop, right? If it had been somebody else, it might have backfired. The only other person I think of that would have worked for this would have been Willie Nelson. Willie Nelson could have totally done this. Pulled that. Oh my God! That's the next one.
Sure. Yeah.
They could do. Of course, people would know by now. Yeah. And we've got a big show ahead of us, timely news. But before we do, we'll just quickly say congratulations to your Cowboys and my Browns. Unbelievably, I don't think it's happened in our 10 plus years of recording where both teams have been 7-3 or better.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Yeah.
This is monumental. It's monumental.
Here we are. I wish the Chiefs could have gotten it done last night, and beat the Eagles. But
if you're a Chiefs fan, you've got to be Kansas City Chiefs. You have to be shit, because they dominated 3.5 quarters of that game.
That's right,
and lost.
That's right,
and they just didn't get it.
Travis did not.
Travis had
Taylor was not there, and Travis played like crap.
People are talking about it today. I mean, he plays significantly better when. Yeah.
And it's kind of like he played bad last night. He was not good.
You remember when Greg Brady had the necklace, and when the necklace was always like bad luck when you had the necklace.
Yes, that's right.
When he needs to wear.
Did you just say like Greg Brady?
Yeah, Brady, the Brady Bunch.
Oh,
Brady from Brady Bunch.
Okay.
Am I that old?
No.
I'm making a Brady Bunch reference. Anyways, I feel like it's sort of the, he's got bad luck when Taylor's not there. He's wearing the necklace, and she arrives and he can take it off and be free and be himself. So there's that.
There you go.
All right. On to our show. Yes.
We have, as we said, this is a big news week, which is fascinating because it's a holiday week, but a big news week nonetheless. And of course, we have to talk about, because everybody's talking about the drama at OpenAI and Microsoft and Sam Altman over the weekend. Then we'll talk about the wheels coming off at X. Lawsuits abound. Brands are abandoning the platform. Disney, Apple, IBM, and more. Media Matters, the one that they're suing, publishes a report about all of this. We'll talk about that for sure. Then we'll talk about the fact that TikTok has just been named the number one news provider. Is it the number one news provider for the ages? We'll discuss. And then we'll get into rants and raves because that's all about. We're going to have time to talk about this in this show. We'll get into rants and raves. I am going to talk a little bit about, I'm going to be an old man yelling at clouds for about 5 seconds here and talk about my recent experiences on mobile websites and websites in general. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about local journalism and a program that is being talked about at NPR. And you are going to talk about BuzzFeed's business model, a new article that came out on Adweek. So
just a little bit. Yeah. But your local journalism conversation, I'm looking forward to that. So stick around for that one. That's going to be at about the 55-minute mark, but it's going to be compelling. It's going to be crazy compelling. All right. What would you like to start with?
That's my new band name, by the way, is Crazy Compelling.
Crazy Compelling.
We're going to start where we have to start, of course, which is all of the hubbub, because, these two chuckleheads, we have to throw our hot take into the mix because nobody else has done that.
Oh, okay. Nobody's talking about this.
Nobody's talking about this. What we'll link to on the internet. But honestly, if you haven't heard or seen this, what are you doing with your life? Basically, this comes from the Wall Street Journal, and it is about Sam Altman, who will now join Microsoft following an OpenAI rebellion. The board sort of shooting themselves in the foot. Much to discuss here, but basically, what has happened over the weekend is that the OpenAI board fired Sam Altman. And then said they were going to rehire him. And then basically Microsoft said, maybe we'll just hire Sam and a bunch of people. And now 500 plus, now 700 plus, as I understand it, of the employees at OpenAI. And the article opens up by saying and by the way, this is all happening in real time. Like Joe said, we're on Tuesday here. Anything could happen by the time this airs on Friday. Sure. It's hiring Sam Altman to helm the new advanced artificial intelligence research firm after his bid to return to OpenAI fell apart on Sunday. That's just 2 days ago, with the board that fired him declining to agree on the proposed terms of his reinstatement. Microsoft chief executive Satya Nadella, who is playing 5D chess here, said on X, formerly known as Twitter, which I think is also duly ironic, said late Sunday that Altman and Greg Brockman, OpenAI's president and co-founder, who also resigned on Friday in protest over Altman's ouster, will lead its team alongside unspecified colleagues, Nadella said. So, I should just, everybody's sort of, I'm sure, at least up to speed on the events that have happened. Mm-hmm. Where do we even start with this? What is your overall take? What do we even think about all that's going on here with OpenAI, ChatGPT, Microsoft, AI, general intelligence? It's just a mess.
There's so much going on, and I guess the first thing I just would like to say is make sure everyone, you do your homework. Don't necessarily listen to us two chuckleheads talk about this thing. Actually, right before we recorded this one, I listened to episode 73 of the Marketing AI podcast with Paul Roetzer, about 50 minutes, and he went through the whole history of OpenAI. And how we got to this point, because a lot of people don't know too that OpenAI was founded as a not-for-profit, and the OpenAI as we know it is within the wrapper of the nonprofit, which seems to be the big issue here. And we don't know yet. And maybe by Friday, and when this comes out, everyone will know why the board ended up firing Sam Altman, and we could talk about all the horrible communication that went on with this. Like this will probably go down as a case study of how a board does not deal with getting rid of somebody. But the only thing that I can tell you, and Paul goes to this in really amazing detail. He talked about how on just a few weeks before this, Sam Altman was talking about how he's seen something with AI that he's never quite seen before. And maybe that's AGI. Maybe it's that artificial general intelligence that we're getting to. That's the big no-no. That's the big, like, oh my God, now
Sure.
it's able to solve these. But no, we don't know. I'm just guessing this out because what could have been so horrible that Sam did? Is it the fact that he was trying to get investments from Saudi Arabia? Is it the fact that he was thinking about setting up his own chip farm? Is it the fact that maybe he was trying to set up his own device in competition with Apple? Those are all things floating around out there that we think are true, but we don't know. But right now, there's a possibility from all this. Two things come to mind. OpenAI, as we know it, might be done. It might be history. And if that's the case, then Microsoft just paid $13 billion, which was their investment into OpenAI, for the most valuable company in the world, because they're taking two of the Sam and the other founder, and possibly 700 plus other employees to lead Microsoft's AI efforts without Microsoft having to pay a premium for that, which is what they would have been able to do. So yeah, I don't know where all this goes. And now the current CEO of OpenAI, which was just announced over the weekend, is the former CEO of Twitch, which, from what I know, maybe you know differently, was never a big fan of AI anyways.
Right.
So the only
certainly
thing
not a thought leader on the topic, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think of is the not-for-profit OpenAI mission is humanity first. You know, I mean, Of course, they state it very properly, but it's that whatever's best for humanity comes first. Something had to go against that mission. And even in all the things, if you see all the deals that are worked out with the investors for the for-profit entity, it says that if humanity's safety or future existence is in jeopardy by something we do, they have every right to pull the plug on this thing.
Yes.
Which seems like is happening right now, because somebody got scared enough for whatever you believe that AGI. That's kind of what I think happened. And Altman was moving so fast into this direction, saying, we're going to go. And then Ilya, and I forgot his last name, the other co-founder, and basically the lead technologist that made the complaints to the board, he obviously shared many concerns. Now he went back on that and said, no, please don't fire him. I didn't want that to happen. But he shared concerns with the board that something was happening. And then very quickly, here we are right now. So I don't know if I missed anything with that, but trying to sum up 70 different stories in 3 days into where we are on Tuesday here was quite a feat. I listened to a lot of podcasts, just trying to wrap my arms around it. But this is something bigger than any of us realize. And I think it comes down to AGI, but we'll find out in the next few days, I think.
I don't think this is going to be that big in the scheme of life. I really don't. And what I mean by that is that when we start talking about the disruption that that OpenAI created in so many ways, this to me feels very reminiscent of Netscape in the early days of the internet. And so what I don't think it's the AGI and people getting scared. I mean, there may be that underneath all of this. I think it's way dumber than that. I think it's politics. I think it's personalities. When OpenAI came out and the original business model was kind of announced as this sort of, cooperation or co-created nonprofit for good of the planet, and with a commercial arm that would help fund all of that, would fund the research, and there were people at the time who went, how could that possibly go wrong? Well, it really did. It really did in what was probably a pretty predictable thing, that the commercial part of the business, the interest of the commercial part of the business started to fly in the face of the nonprofit. And at the heart of, we've seen this before in other nonprofits where this becomes a big contentious thing with the board, who are focused on mission, who are focused on, the doing quote unquote the mission of the organization, and the commercial interests, which are focused on succeeding in the success. And I think at the end of the day, there's just so much politics here. And I think in so many ways, this is representative of the inexperience, for the most part, that most of these people had being on a board of this stature. And I think Ilya coming out and saying, "Oh, damn, I didn't mean for you to take me seriously when I said, all of this stuff." It's like, him coming back and saying, "Well, I didn't really want Sam to go," and all of that. I think I just think this is a lot of posturing and a lot of, and those kinds of things. And ultimately, this is Microsoft. This is Satya Nadella at his absolute chess playing genius, right? And just taking advantage of a foolish misstep in governance by the board of OpenAI, because they just basically shot themselves in the foot with this. There were so many other ways that this could have been dealt with, other than taking such a drastic action, over, and to your point, we don't know the half of it, right? We don't know the half of what went on here, other than the fact that you can tell by the fact that now 700 of the employees have signed a letter basically saying this is awful, and how dare you?
If they signed it saying if reinstate Sam, or they want the board to resign, is what they're asking for, because they want it to go back to normal, which I don't know is a thing.
No, but I think the implications. So you make a great point, which is the implications here that we need to be aware of. Like, okay, so other than a interesting made-for-TV movie, what are the implications here for the business? And what are the implications here for us as marketers and as businesses going forward? To me, there's, if this morning, Tuesday morning, before Thanksgiving, there are a lot of startup CEOs who have built their business and here we go again on rented land on basically as
we've seen this before, right? Whether it be Twitter or Facebook. Yes.
It is I mean, not to beat a dead horse here, but for all of those who said, "Oh, they just got $13 billion from Microsoft, and they're $90 billion. Of course, they're not going away. We can build our entire business on the back of being a wrapper for ChatGPT and basically build it through the APIs and build our entire business and get funded on the back of that, because of course the risk of them going under is so low." Well, welcome to 2023, right? And how quickly things can change for even a company the size of OpenAI. And so I think there's a lot of CEOs that are really worried, and right now working with their developers as best they can to try and figure out what happens if the existing board, a new board, or just OpenAI in general goes, "Yeah, we're just going to shut off the commercial access to ChatGPT 4. Now we're just going to close off the APIs because we don't believe it's safe. We don't believe that it's, I think the risk of that is relatively low in the short term. But, just because there's more going on there. But but it's a real risk that, they just shut down the entire commercial aspect of it altogether.
When it seemed, I'm taking this way more seriously than you are. I think there's something that we don't know yet that we'll find out that is going to change where AI goes. That's what I believe, but I don't have anything. So I think what the board did was they used what they had at their disposal as a poison pill, as like a corporate poison pill, to say, we have to stop this hostile takeover, if you will. And the hostile takeover was whatever Sam Altman wanted to do. That's because why would you do something so quickly like this unless you felt that this had to be taken care of?
Your back was against the wall. You think they felt like their back was against the wall and they had to do something completely drastic.
There's no other reason. This was drastic. This was the most drastic. Why?
Sure.
If it's not
themselves, they basically threw themselves in front of a bus.
They had to know. They're smart enough people. Whether they got enough board experience, they're really smart people. And they said, we might end the company. And that's actually in their charter. They know that if they get to this point where it's going to harm humanity, they gotta pull the plug on this. And the last thing I'll say, because we could talk about this forever, is here comes the government. Here comes a lot of people saying that you can't leave this type of power into the hands of a few. And you, what does that mean? We don't know. I mean, what can you talk about a government that can't even get a budget?
Yeah, well, that's a good point. That's a good point. Well, you know who's happy about this? Yeah, well, you know who's happy about this right now is Google, right? I mean, Google just got like a brilliant pit stop right here in terms of, because by the way, what got buried in all the news is that Google released, a number of new tools, including Lyria, which is a music AI generation technology, and they've released it now to beta with content creators now, and it's an amazing artificial intelligence generative AI technology, so for generating music. And if you haven't, by the way, if you haven't seen a demo of it, because it's not available to the general public yet, but if you go watch the video with the demo, it's impressive. I think Google's going to jump all over this.
Well, or it could be worse because Microsoft has taken such a leap forward in having that amount of talent, or it could just, everything could scatter to the wind. I mean, you've got all these really smart people. If OpenAI implodes, which it seems to be doing right now, all these people are going to go somewhere and do things on their own. They're going to go to Google. They're going to go to Apple. They're going to go to Amazon.
Have you seen all the texts? I mean, I just for interest, I went on X and Threads and LinkedIn, and Benioff put out a big message basically saying, if you're an engineer or you're a person over at OpenAI and you're looking for a job, put his email address up on the post and said, email me your CV and we'll get you going with Einstein. And
they're all doing like, Satya, look, he got us again. How do they keep doing that?
Yeah.
Microsoft, who knew?
Satya Nadella. He is
really
a smart man.
Okay. So we'll see what happens when this comes out. This will be,
I will be very curious.
Waste of time. I don't know.
I'll be very curious to see if you're right here. I'm not going to look. I'm not going to be so cavalier as to say I know that it's not that. Maybe there is, but I just don't feel like I'm definitely going Occam's razor here. Right? It's the simplest thing is probably the right thing here, and it's just politics and personalities. But we will.
I have a feeling we're going to be talking about this next week. I just have a
you're probably right. You are probably right. All right, let's move to our next story here. Well, actually, before we move to the next story, why don't we do what we need to do to make sure that this podcast doesn't implode and we have employees basically wanting to join Microsoft, and let's pay some bills, should we? You know what time of year it is, folks. That's right. It's football season, Q4. It is time to close out another year of growth and prep for the next year of revenue. To bring in more business this Q4 and beyond, you need Hubspot Sales Hub. With a smart prospecting workspace, deal management suite, and AI-powered apps, you can take total control of your operation to generate more leads and land more sales. And when you pair Sales Hub with HubSpot Smart CRM, your team will be on the same page across the entire customer journey. Leads won't slip through the cracks, and data is connected across marketing, sales, and operations so you can better measure your impact on the bottom line. Stop sticking to the same old strategies and start closing more deals, because the best time to score is Q4. Make the switch to HubSpot Sales Hub at hubspot.com/sales. Let me tell you about this awesome podcast that I was recently turned on to. It's called Talking Too Loud, hosted by Chris Savage, Wistia's CEO and loudest talker, and is brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. This show gets into the minds of entrepreneurs as they share the hilarious, informative, and most challenging aspects of building more human brands. One of my favorite newer episodes is Chris's interview with my friend and fellow podcaster Jay Acunzo. Together, he and Chris talk about how people can really be more heartfelt, incorporate more candor, and pull their little life moments into their brand and messaging. Check it out, won't you? It's Talking Too Loud, and you can find it wherever you catch your favorite pods. Yeah, great. Upstairs at Eric's. Did you go research Upstairs at Eric's?
Not a bit. I didn't.
Okay.
Didn't do anything. But I'm gonna write it down for a second time.
That's right.
Because
your homework, I'm assigning you homework, is to go listen to Upstairs at Eric's.
Upstairs at Eric. You're gonna go watch Adam Sandler Marathon.
And you're getting, by the way, you're getting the way better part of that deal, right?
You don't know. You don't know.
No, I know. I know. It would. I know that no Adam Sandler movie is good as
you
the album
think you know, but you don't know.
Oh.
I've been in those houses. I've been in those meetings. I don't know. That's a Moneyball reference. Brad Pitt. What he's
every time I hear that though, I think of the what's that? Get him to the Greek where Jonah Hill's like, I'm proud of those units. I love those units. I sold those units.
Oh, jeez.
Right. That's another guy who's in trouble right now. Is Sean Combs, B Diddy.
Oh, that was the quickest. I mean, it came out news about the indiscretion. Yeah, and then the next day it was settled. That was somebody. Yeah, I'm not even going to talk about it.
No. Yeah.
I've never. Usually those things don't happen that quickly. But
no. It's like,
what are we talking about now?
We're talking about X, of course, because buried in all of the news about OpenAI was the fact that there's a S storm. Well, let's just say it is a shit storm happening over at X right now. And the headline that we'll have from Ad Age, but again, a lot of the media outlets are covering this, is X responds to the advertisers exiting, but exiting, get it? See what they did there?
Yeah.
Right, anyway,
exiting.
But exiting. But ad leaders predict the platform can't come back from the latest controversy. So if you're unaware of what the controversy might be, the article opens up and will help you understand it, because it says X, formerly known as Twitter, that's just going to be the way it's going to be now, I suppose.
Forever.
Has responded to the exodus of major advertisers, including Apple, IBM, Disney, Comcast, Lionsgate, Paramount Global. But advertisers predict that the Elon Musk-owned platform will not be able to come back from the latest controversy. The latest controversy, of course, is the fact that Elon tweeted out it's support. Let's just call it support for anti-Semitic feelings.
I think you can flat out say it.
You think so? Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm just going
to, you know what, we hem and haw because we don't necessarily want to take political positions, but I don't think this is political at all.
Good point. That's a good point.
He has over and over again showed support for people that express anti-Semitic opinions.
Yes, that is correct.
And it's a problem. And thank goodness it took this, right? It took this for advertisers to finally say, oh, well, I'm not going to. I mean, I don't know. You've already made this decision. I mean, we can go into some of our own things here. I mean, we have another thing that we can talk about as well. But I thought after this whole thing going on, where he's been on again, supporting this and keep going at it, and I really think I probably should leave that platform.
Yeah.
I don't want to give any oxygen to a person that does that.
That's it.
And I don't know what else to do. What do you do? You should leave the platform, right?
I'm leaving. I've left.
Yeah.
And I'm actually, as of the Thanksgiving holiday, I'm cutting off. I'm actually going to go delete my account. Because I was literally just giving it a little bit of a tail to see if any, basically giving people time to find me. Because if you go look at my profile now, it says, "Hey, come find me on Threads." So I was just giving a little bit of a tail to that, and now I'm just gonna leave, full stop. And so basically, but just to complete the story here, the marketers are now also calling on the CEO, Linda Yaccarino, to resign in order to protect her own reputation, because here's one of the interesting ironies of the whole thing. So this is NBC Universal was one of the big advertisers. And of course, Linda Yaccarino used to head ad sales for NBC Universal. And so all these advertisers basically have paused spending on the platform, but let's just be honest, they've quit after Musk promoted an anti-Semitic post. And then combined with that, the media watchdog Media Matters published a report last week that sort of basically brought all this to a head, that revealed brands that are running, including Apple's, which was X's largest advertiser. Basically, their ads were running next to anti-Semitic content. And so, Yaccarino came out and with the party line and said, quote, "There's a vocal minority trying to use deceptive tactics to undermine our work. But on the other side, there are vocal supporters and courageous partners who believe in X and the meaningful work you all are doing," end quote. But honestly, that feels that's a really empty statement right now, because, who is it? Those quote unquote vocal supporters, maybe not who you really want, on your side of history there. So it is chaos right now, as one ad exec who says it. And I wonder if this is literally the beginning of the end, because now Musk has said they're going to sue Media Matters for this. This feels...
I think that's happened.
Yeah.
I thought that actually...
Yeah, as we go to air, it's definitely happened. But I think this is the nail in the coffin, to be honest. I think this has got to be, well, from a business model perspective, it's a nail in the coffin. Whether there
you go. I think that's better said. So just look at what happened with OpenAI over the weekend. Do you know where everyone was getting their information? You know where everyone was posting their information? It was on X.
Yeah, true.
And this, in times like this, when you really need information quickly and you have your set of trusted experts that you follow, most of that's done on X, formerly.
Although I will tell you, Sam Altman, as well as Kara Swisher doing some amazing reporting on the whole OpenAI thing, was posting on Threads.
Well, I would like to now. They may get to the point where they're the immediate news, and they've got because the last time that, I don't know what it was, a week ago, when I was playing around with Threads, which I don't go there very often, I didn't feel like I was getting the most recent stuff, no matter what I did. Now maybe that's changing. Maybe so. That's what
you mean
Twitter's
on Threads.
On Threads.
Threads, you weren't. Yeah, okay.
I didn't feel like I was getting like what's going on right now, not what happened 4 days ago. I don't want that one. I don't want the most popular one from 4 days ago or 3 days ago. I want to see like what's going on right now. And I know you can sort of fiddle with that, and they are fiddling.
Well, you can follow the people who would normally report on it, like Kara Swisher, right? So she was right there. She was, as far as I know, she was noting the. She was the first one I know of to post the actual letter from the employees, and she posted that on Threads. And she was providing a timeline really early in the weekend of what was going on there. So yeah, I think there's some good journalism happening on Threads with select people. I grant you that X is still sort of there because it's sort of the platform that people have, kind of thing, but I think they're all doing it a bit with a distaste in their mouth.
Well, to your point, the business model of advertising first that Twitter X has had cannot survive what Elon does. It's shown over and over again that you can't get advertisers that are trying to target regular people buying regular consumer items. They're not going to support what he does.
Yeah.
And nor should they. So hats off to them. So X can survive. I don't think it's the nail in the coffin, but they can't have an advertising-based business model. It's got to be subscription run or some other means of funding, which could just be his pet project. He's the richest person in the world. He doesn't need to. He could totally subsidize this himself.
It becomes his
little pet project, which that's what it is. And we're thinking that he needs to make a business model out of this. He does not. It doesn't. And poor Linda Yaccarino just needs to go because she's not needed. Because
that's right.
Anything that she does, she can't do anything. They could have the best stats in the world. Like, oh my God, your advertising return rates are going to be off the hook. You definitely need to. It doesn't matter when he's sharing and supporting positions like this.
That's right.
So,
and here's the thing: I would actually respect them more if they just leaned into that.
I totally agree.
If they
this is who you are,
you're
totally screwed up platform,
right?
Platform. Well, that's us.
if she just, in other words, don't even give lip service to the point that you're trying to, put in controls around brand adjacency to advertising and, all of that sort of stuff. Just say, look, we're leaning into subscription. We're not worried about advertising at all. We're leaning into free speech. We're leaning into becoming a subscription-based platform where free speech, anything you want to say is there. And basically, my pedigree as an ad salesperson has really nothing to do with my job. It's all about my ability to lead us and transform this company into a payments platform and a subscription base. Like if they would lean into that messaging, I think they'd do better. I think they would actually do better because people would be like, it's like it's a little bit like they're trying to have it both ways now from a messaging perspective, and it's just showing them to be dishonest. And so, I would just lean into it. I would just lean into your point of view there. I don't understand why I don't understand the facade. I really just don't. I don't get it.
So I totally agree with you. 100%. I think that's going to happen, but I wish they'd just come out and say that. And the second thing is for this is, I don't know Linda Yaccarino, but I really would like her. I think she should leave before she is attached to this stigma for the rest of her life. And she had an opportunity to leave. She can't do anything about what Elon is doing. And the more you stay, you are complicit in that. And I think it's a problem. And I think that and that's why, you made that decision for whatever reason you made that decision. I need to come to this decision and say, regardless of if it's doing anything for my business or not, I don't want to be associated with a platform that is a proponent of these attitudes. Done.
That's right.
And
where the leader of the company where the leader of the company is a proponent of these. That's sentiments.
Right. Yeah. You just can't do it. So I just haven't done it, but I need to do it. Probably we'll do it in the next.
It's hard for a guy like you, right? I mean, I mean this sincerely. It's hard for somebody because it was hard for me because, I look at the amount of, quote unquote sunk cost for, and that's a kind of an awful way to think about it, but the amount of sunk effort, let's put it that you had from 2007 and 2008, literally for the last 15 years that you've put into that platform and, X tens, you with hundreds of thousands of followers and me with my, 50,000 or something like that. And, deleting that is just sort of like it's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to come to the conclusion to. But for me, it was the writing was on the wall when I didn't agree. I could not. The dude doesn't abide by where they were going messaging wise and what they were doing from an anti-Semitism and sort of those kinds of things. But honestly, the sort of nail in the coffin for me was when I turned it off, basically, and my web traffic didn't go down at all, and in fact went up. My percentage of Twitter traffic actually went up. It's like, okay, that tells me that I'm screaming into the void there. I don't get, my audience is not there anymore and not sharing anymore. And that was proven out at Content Marketing World and so many other places. It's like, yeah, they're there, but nobody cares anymore. It's not, it's not, there's no heart left in the feed.
Yeah. And I don't know who said this. You probably do, but there's never a bad time to make the right decision.
Oh,
I'm a little bit late a little bit late to the game here, but the right decision is I see it in front of me. I know that's the decision I have to make. So over the next week, I'm just gonna do it. And then you're gonna have to change the people watching video. You've got my X address here, so I have to and I'm not gonna do Threads. I could do LinkedIn. Maybe I just do my website. Just put my website up there.
Yeah, LinkedIn. I will tell you, I'm really enjoying Threads for the content. I'm not posting a lot there. I'm posting probably twice a week stuff, and I'm sort of finding my way of the kinds of thing I want to post on Threads, which right now is mostly like observations about life rather than sort of my marketing, sharing news. I used to use Twitter so much as sort of like sharing news, sharing thought leadership, sharing, links here, sharing links there, doing that, sort of thing. And I'm finding on Threads that it feels kind of tired. So I'm basically just like sharing more personal observations about life and business and those sorts of things. And I'm enjoying the content very much. I mean, it's small and there's no ads yet, so it's great from an experience perspective. And I know that's going to change, but I will tell you that my small following and those that I follow, it's been really lovely. It's been a nice way to scroll through things, and not feel bad.
Yeah, the only thing that bothers me is that I'm moving from one person that I'm really not a fan of, for sure.
Well, that's
Elon,
true. I
to
mean,
another person I'm really not a fan of, which is Zuckerberg. It's just like which.
Yeah,
like,
I get
don't
it.
like either side of the pool.
I get it.
I should just stay out of the pool. But okay.
Yeah. Right.
We'll see.
Yeah.
All right.
No, there's something to be said about that too. I mean, there's something to be said about social media in general, which, but anyway, that's a whole other topic. All right, let's get to our last story here quickly, which is about Tick and the Talk. And the headline, which will come from the Pew Research organization. Basically, the headline is more Americans are getting news on TikTok, bucking the trend seen on most other social media sites. A small but growing share of U.S. adults say they regularly get their news on TikTok. This is in contrast with many other social media sites where news consumption has either declined or stayed about the same in recent years. In just 3 years, the share of U.S. adults who say they regularly get news from TikTok has more than quadrupled, from 3% in 2020 to 14% in 2023. TikTok, primarily known for its short-form video sharing, has become especially popular among teens, 2/3 of whom report ever using the platform, as well as young adults. Among adults, those 18 to 29 are most likely to say they regularly get news on TikTok. About a third of Americans in this age group, 32%, say they regularly get news there, a higher share than in years before. This compares with 15% of those aged 30 to 49 and 7% of those 50 to 64. Hi, that's me. And then just 3% of those 65 and older. And then there's a wonderful graph here that sort of shows the growth. It's sort of, it's just like kind of obvious, boom, the sort of hockey stick growth of TikTok and news with regard to Snapchat, LinkedIn, WhatsApp, Twitch, Facebook, Reddit, etc. All of them in decline, with the exception of Nextdoor, which is very funny to me. Nextdoor is just like Nextdoor is like the cesspool of social media networks. It really is.
Yeah, but that's going up too. So
yeah, exactly.
We're all saved. We're all saved.
Yeah, there's a raccoon. So here's Nextdoor. There's a raccoon in my driveway. What is this animal? It's always a possum. And 3, somebody just
scam alert.
Yeah, and then some sort of picture of somebody on a street who looks kind of suspicious, and we should be watching out for them. So there's your Nextdoor in a nutshell.
So is based on, you and I have talked about this whole TikTok thing, and probably me more than you, of the concern that I have about it. And I was just doing some back of the envelope math here. Yeah. So based on what you just said, we've got 30% of U.S. adults under 30 that get their news from TikTok. 14% of all U.S. adults get their news from TikTok, whatever news is, which we don't know what that is exactly. Now, if you look at this and you just play it out at its current rate of growth, it is possible that within 5 years, half of U.S. adults could get their news from TikTok. I'm just pointing it out. Yeah. Because that's my job here, that TikTok is a Chinese-owned company. Yeah. And I'm not even calling out the whole China thing. I'm saying is, what if your population got half its news from another country?
Well, I mean...
no. Hey. Right? Huh? That's my argument.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one.
Yeah. So that's that if something doesn't happen here to change that, boy, that's scary. Do you think that China would let that happen? That 50% of Chinese get their news from American? No.
Well, no, they wouldn't.
They would
but
stop
it's a different. No, it's a different. Well, it's a different. It's an entirely different system.
Isn't this a national security? I don't want to be a conspiracy
not
theorist.
A national security.
I think it's a national security risk.
I do not.
I do. I absolutely think it is. I think it's top 3 issue. I think AI, TikTok, and
I don't think the platform is.
The Kardashians are the 3 biggest issues that we should be concerned about.
I think we should be much more concerned about the misinformation, the ease by which misinformation and technology such as AI can create the misinformation, and then the platforms that are well, let's call it enablement, right? TikTok has arguably a stricter set of regulations about what can go on there than does Facebook, for example. We talked about on this show how Facebook's, sort of theatrical sort of announcement around political advertising and those kinds of things was really kind of silly. When I look at all of the issues that we have with regard to misinformation, fake news, et cetera, I don't believe that TikTok usage is at the top of that list. It's on the list, but it's not at the top.
But it's not misinformation. It's the ability to change the thinking.
Yeah,
of so many people. One, because I don't
see that. I don't.
So what? Yeah. The average adult that uses TikTok is on it for an hour and a half a day.
Agreed. I don't know that. So that's a whole other thing, though, right?
So maybe that's the goal. Maybe it's that, hey, let's just put pictures of cats and dogs and people like doing stupid things and whatever, and keep them occupied.
Fair enough. I hear you,
because they have the best mousetrap of keeping people addicted to a platform than any other platform out there.
That absolutely could be the case, and that to me is the bigger concern than whether or not they're going to manipulate the news to foment some sort of rebellion or something like that.
No, it's funny. I mean,
the distraction.
I don't know if I have a succinct point here. I just want it known, but that this is an issue. This could be an issue. I talked about this with my youngest, and we were arguing because he thought I was stupid about the whole thing. He's like, "You're just making this stuff up just because you want to be argumentative, whatever." And I said, all they really want is for us to be polarized. They just want to keep moving us in different directions to rip us apart internally. That's all they want. And I think that's what's happening. That's not just TikTok, by the way. That's obviously Facebook. That could be.
That's Instagram. Any media platform. Yeah, that's.
I know.
That's
but
any
if that's
modern
all.
Media
if that's all they do,
right?
Isn't that an issue?
Yeah. It gets to whether it's a nefarious sort of intent or whether it's just neglect, right? In other words, if you're optimizing for the business model, which in this case, I would say TikTok is definitely doing that, right? They're optimizing your feed for the business model so that you see more ads, you buy more stuff, you basically use their platform more. It becomes sort of the media platform for the younger generation. That's just optimizing the business model at the expense of the mental health or social health of the public. And so totally get that that's an issue and that government should step in, and we've talked about that ad nauseum on this show about the need for regulation and verification. And that's across social media. That's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, formerly known as Twitter, TikTok. Basically every media, YouTube, every media outlet, right? And then there's the idea that somehow someone's putting their finger on the scale of the algorithm of content to create a polarization for spying purposes, and that I don't. It
doesn't have to be spying.
I know it doesn't. That's my point. Is that those are two separate things. Those are two separate issues, and conflating those two things.
That's what they want you to believe.
Oh my God.
All right, we can stop talking about that because people are like, Joe, you got to get a life here. I'm just saying.
Well, they may be yelling at me too, saying that I'm Pollyanna.
That's why it works so well. We just scream at the clouds, I guess.
That's right. Well, speaking of which, yelling at clouds.
Yes.
We're going to get to our rants and raves section to finish off our little show here, and basically, it's where Joe and I go off on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave over something that makes us feel like, that we've just used one of Snoop Dogg's new smokeless things, or the fact that we've quit weed smoking altogether.
I actually thought that he was just going to edibles. I'm just like, the smoking was too much, so he's like, he just switched.
No, well, I'm sure he does all of the above. I think it's the answer is E, my friend. All of the above. Yes,
I know most people know this, but the fact that he has a blunt roller on his staff. And
yes,
the job.
But that's part of the brand. It's part of the. Impressive. It's so great. It's so great. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So very quickly here, just like this super quick rant. I don't know if you've experienced this, but literally over the last, I would call it 6 months, maybe even a little longer, but 6 months for sure. I read a lot on my phone, right? I read news articles. I sometimes will read a book, but mostly I read news articles for this show and for others. And I read my favorite blogs on my phone. I read, my Cowboys blogs. I read I read a lot on my phone. And I will tell you, the ads, the pop-ups, the takeovers, the, slow loading ads that get inserted, it's just making these sites literally unusable. I cannot get over it. It's so bad now that there are sites now when I will see them in my social media feed that I know the site, and I'm like, I'm not clicking on it because I know it's gonna load 4 pop-ups on my phone, and I can't.
Forbes,
yes, right, and so you can't literally load it up.
It's that scene from Ready Player One where he wants to IOI wants to take it over, and he says, look at all this advertising space. We can cover 98% of the screen.
Right. Exactly.
That's when you go to Forbes and other sites. I'm going to pick on Forbes, for example, and I have to look to find the content.
Yeah.
Like if I scroll down enough, I can sort of see the first line. What are they doing?
Yeah. And then there's the whole thing where you have to click for more of the article, and as soon as you click for more of the article, another pop-up comes up, and it takes over the page where there's no X to close it. You literally have to scroll through the ad as it sort of magically disappears over
the one where you have to wait like 7 seconds or 10 seconds, and then it will give you the X. That's the one that drives me crazy. I'm like, I just have to wait and look at this.
Anyway. Okay. All right. Yeah. Very quickly here, I don't know if it's rave necessarily. It's a commentary more than anything else. We got into a discussion with our wonderful friend and family of the show for sure. And father and new father, our friend Carlos Abler, who we've known for years and years and years. The guy who uses words that I usually have to. He's one of the
most intelligent people that I've ever met.
Any email from him, you're picking up a dictionary, right?
I have to tell him, and I've done that. I have to say, okay, Carlos, speak to me like you think
5-year-old
in the 6th grade.
Yeah, that's right.
I need that kind of language.
Anyway, he reached out to us, and we started an online discussion around local news, and we've talked about this on the show before, and we talked about the idea of content marketing and local news, and we ran across this article from that came out in NPR about a month ago that we didn't cover on the news, but it's a really interesting thing. And what we started talking about was this idea of, again, how. And we even did some back of the envelope math about how local newspapers and stadium naming rights would probably be in this similar kind of budget range for these brands that sort of really take over a city, right? So big companies that have their headquarters in local, in the local city, and could take over either as a benefactor to literally just subsidize the profitability of a local news organization, or have some sort of naming rights, or have some sort of, on-air sponsorship of this kind of thing. And it's just a fascinating business model that we can't understand why isn't getting more press and or more coverage and or just people trying it. It just seems like such a no-brainer to us. And we started having that discussion. And then this article, which we'll link to in the show notes, came up, which is Philanthropy's pledged $500 million to address the crisis in local news. And by the way, there's another article that we could have linked to, and perhaps I'll make sure we get it into the show notes from Axios this week that showed county by county in the U.S. the number of local newspapers that are at risk right now. And so the article says some of the biggest names in American philanthropy have joined forces to spend at least $500 million over 5 years to revitalize the coverage of local news in places. And it's based on a Chicago MacArthur Foundation grant called Press Forward. Fantastic program, but it shouldn't be necessary, right? This is and can be solved in the private sector, or at least a cooperation or co-creation, with private and public resources, whether it's government plus NGOs plus the business, where this is not that hard a problem to solve. It just really isn't, and should be solved and can be solved with marketing efforts, branding efforts from companies, because they're still spending money on naming stadiums. They're still spending money on naming libraries. They're still spending money on naming things for themselves. And so it would not be a huge stretch of the imagination. And all of the conflicts of interest kinds of things could be easily taken care of if brands would just get behind the idea of sponsoring their local newspaper and turn that into a platform for content marketing. So anyway, just a bit of a commentary there, I guess, and a shout out to Carlos for the work that he's thinking about in this, and then also this article.
Yeah, I mean, and we were having this email discussion, and it hits you right in the face and says, okay, for local news to survive, they can't make money off the content. It's not directly off the content.
Right.
So
that's right.
So if you take that outside and you look at it, like you said, a naming rights thing, and we've talked about it on the show, the Cleveland.com, Cleveland Plain Dealer.
Yeah.
That could easily be sponsored by Progressive Insurance. They are the naming rights to Progressive Field where the Cleveland Guardians play.
That's right.
Why not? Rocket Mortgage does the Cavaliers. Same type of thing. My hometown of Sandusky, Ohio, their Sandusky Register having a tough time. Well, who's located there? Cedar Point, Cedar Fair, the largest regional roller coaster chain in the world, I think. Why they could support something like so. Those types of things need to happen, and I really think I don't know if you need to do an article about it or like we. Probably
the interesting thing to me is the immediate pushback that I've gotten before is, well, that's nice, but this is a local thing, and these big national, international, in some cases, companies, that's not where their customers are, right? They're why would you do that if they're and my point to it is that and I know this is a little bit of an interesting and shifting sands these days with remote work, but it's where their employees are. Right.
Yeah.
And so taking civic pride into where your employees live and breathe is just as, so employee branding and employee marketing and taking an active role in the city that you occupy is, I would argue, just as an important of a brand issue as making sure that you're getting the reach and frequency you need with your potential customer base as well. By the way, your customer base is also there in the local city. And there's a reason that you've basically decided that sponsoring the local stadium is a good idea. I can't understand why you wouldn't suggest, or couldn't suggest sponsoring the local newspaper, because the money, by the way, you don't have to buy the newspaper. You don't have to take it over.
And you don't want to be part of the operations.
You don't have to be, right?
Just like Progressive isn't involved in any decisions that the Guardians are making, but their investment in keeps the lights on, keeps them buying other players. I mean,
that's exactly right. And you can look at what is happening right now in, for example, when we cover Arrow Electronics, and they purchase 53 magazines, websites, e-commerce, events, et cetera, all in the electrical engineering space. For Arrow Electronics, they set a whole division of their company to do that separate, and they don't. It's definitely a firewall there. But the interesting thing here is it's just about the subsidy, enough to keep them above water and active and and it keeps your total addressable market alive. It keeps your employee base. There's so much goodness to be had there, and it just seems to me to be such low hanging fruit. So I just don't understand why it hasn't happened yet.
It's just a change in thinking. It's just on
Yep.
both sides. On both sides.
All right, what do you got?
I love that conversation. Mine is just really quick, and I'll put this in the show notes. There's an article. Let me see if I can put this up here. There's an article from Adweek on Buzzfeed. Of course, for those of you that aren't aware of what Buzzfeed is going through, they're really going through hard times. They're not growing to try to scale anymore. What they're really trying to do is figure out if this model can even work at all. And there's the article here from Mark Sternberg talks about the changes that the media company is making. They have the Buzzfeed, HuffPost, Complex Media, First We Feast, and Tasty are all part of what's going on at Buzzfeed. They're not trying to scale anymore. And I think what we're seeing is what they're trying to do is they're going deep into the knowledge of one particular market. And instead of having salespeople go across all these different brands, they're moving sales and operations to each individual brand. And I know you and I have talked about this forever. This happens we see a switching back all the time. I mean, there's like, okay, we're going to, back in 2000 and 2001, everything was about scaling. We want a salesperson to be able to sell 7-8 properties. We want our editors to be able to write in all these different markets. And then we get a recession and everything goes back to, okay, we want experts in each category. And that's where we're going. And I think we're going to go there for a long time because to be successful as any media brand today, you have to really go deep and know that area better than anyone else. And you can't afford for that editor, that journalist, that writer, that operations person, that salesperson to be confused about who the customers are, who the audience is, and how I can serve those pain points. Yep. So they're starting to move them again. So instead of, it's really easy decisions to make. And when you look at it on the surface, that's the way creators, content entrepreneurs are setting it up. They're like, oh, okay, we're the expert in this one thing. We're going to have a salesperson that focuses on that. We got an operations, we got an editorial team. We're just going to focus on that. If we launch something else, that's a different team. Right. You don't want to water that down at all. So that's what BuzzFeed is trying to do so that they understand their audience's needs a little bit more. And, the advertising across these different channels and setting up these 4 or 5 vertical markets all into one is just not going to work anymore. If it ever did work really well. But so we're kind of coming back home with these media models.
I think that's so fascinating. It's, go deep and niche, or if you want to go broad, you got to be big. You got to, that's
what BuzzFeed tried to do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They just tried to go big in all these and it just simply didn't work.
You can't get big enough. You can't get, we've talked about this
for scale
so many times. Yeah, it's the scale you need these days to be big and broad in media is too much.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Thanksgiving is upon us, my friend.
Happy Thanksgiving to you. Happy Thanksgiving to all our wonderful listeners. Thank you for all the support. It's amazing that I think we are right now. We're within a week or two of celebrating our 10th anniversary.
Yes, we are.
Which is crazy, right?
It is.
Because we started in 2013, November of 13.
Yeah,
that's when we started. And God, what a lot of wasted time, huh? Well, no, I love you. I love you. And boy, how life would be different if we didn't start this crazy podcast, right?
It would be very, very strange indeed. And thank all of you for wasting your time. The 403 hours that you have now wasted with all of this nonsense. And we do thank you for that and have much, much gratitude for you. Have a lovely weekend and a great, do some shopping on Black Friday as this comes out. And until we see you again next week, and we will see you again next week for 404, just remember, everybody, it is your story to tell, and tell it well. We'll see you next week on This Old Marketing.